coordinate Farming for Nature. Farming for Nature was set up to inspire and encourage farmers that farm or wish to farm more for nature. And one of the ways we do this is each year we find exemplary farmers that are working alongside nature and improving nature on their land. These are our Farming for Nature ambassadors, and this Q&A session is a great way to hear from our ambassadors. So over the next hour, I'll start the session by asking a few questions. And if any of you have any questions for the guest speaker, please put it in your chat box, which should be along your banner, and I'll facilitate them as we go along. So if you missed any of the previous sessions, or if you will miss any of tonight's session, or you know of anyone that would like to watch tonight's session, it will be up on our YouTube channel within the next 24 hours. So on to tonight's session. I am delighted to have one of our more recently awarded Farming for Nature ambassadors, Sean Gilligan, to join us. Sean works alongside his business partner, Rob Kennedy, as a horticultural, beef, chicken, and many other things farmer on the base of Knockleray in County Sligo. Sean, welcome and thanks for joining us tonight. Hi.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us.
So, Sean, we might just get started. What's your own journey into farming and this farm?
So the farm is located in Strandhill, and so we took over the running of my parents' farm back in 2021. So I suppose just growing up, we had 7-8 suckler cows, kind of born in this calves born in the spring and then weaned and sold in the autumn. So there's always kind of plenty of time spent wandering the fields and up cleaning out sheds and that. So I'd always had a big interest in agriculture, but by the time I kind of got into leaving certain that career guidance, teachers wouldn't have really given much encouragement to go into agriculture at the time, or I suppose even myself, like just where we had 21 acres, so there was at the time I thought it was completely unrealistic to kind of make a living off 21 acres. So I went and studied then geography and archaeology in NUIG in Galway. So that's kind of done that for a few years, and I suppose in the back of my mind I still always kind of did want to work in agriculture. And I suppose just when you maybe if you go off the beaten track a wee bit and kind of see what other people are at, and then you see kind of people making a living off small acreage, and I suppose the common denominator was selling direct. So that was the thing. And then after college kind of went and done a bit of traveling, just I suppose to get that out of the system. And but then even that was very beneficial too, because you kind of see what other people are at in different corners of the world as well. So I spent a bit of time in New Zealand and Scotland, and then gradually came back home again, and I suppose developed the idea that we had in our head, then myself and Rob, and ended up kind of fine-tuning that and deciding on the enterprises that we started with in day one.
Brilliant. So you might just describe for us your farming system that you have currently, like what livestock, what processes you have, and what you've got going on at the moment.
So currently the farm, we're farming 20 hectares. So 10 of that is owned and then 10 of that is leased. Up around the farmyard, there's 1.5 acres in veg production. So that would be a no-dig system. So how we created the beds, the vegetable beds, the growing beds on day one, is that we put down cardboard, and then we had just wooden frames made up, and we filled the wooden frames then with bought-in compost to about 150 millimeters, and so that's then wood chipped the kind of the pathways, and yes, that's the whole kind of I suppose the basis of the system for the market garden. And then our hens, we built a mobile, I suppose an egg mobile or a mobile house for them. So they get rotated around on pasture then. So they are kind of kept within poultry netting to keep them safe from the foxes and that. And then they get moved every 48 hours, every 2 days or that. So that's the basis of the system. And then the cattle kind of, I suppose, work in rotation with the hens. And at different times of the year, they might be moving kind of every day, every 2 days, or during the winter months now at the minute, they get moved every 7 days. and then just as the kind of, I suppose, that the grass growth kicks in and grass growth starts to speed up, the cattle then start to move quicker, just to kind of, I suppose, move around. It would be called kind of mob grazing or holistic plan grazing. So you kind of, as the grass growth speeds up, the livestock speed up with them.
So how many hens, livestock and veg types would you have on the farm?
So vegetables we grow is, I think it'll be 17 this year, 2025, 17 different types. Hens, we have 300 laying hens. And then livestock at the minute, we have 5 going on 2-year-olds. So there'll be 2-year-olds, 5 Belted Galloway bullocks. That'll be 2-year-olds in from March through to kind of July. So, and then every spring we'll buy in another 5. So we have 5 that are kind of slaughtered that year, and then another kind of younger 5 then that we keep through the winter, and then they'll get slaughtered in the following year. So for the growing season, we carry 10 cattle. Yeah.
Do you breed them, or you just bring them in for beef and finishing?
Bring them in for beef and finishing. Yeah, we've kind of built up a wee bit of a network, which I think actually, Jared Walsh down Galway could be an ambassador as well. So we buy in the bullocks off Jared, and then there's another farm down in Tuam. They have 10 or 11 Belted Galloway cows. So so that's kind of just built up a good network over the years.
So we're in the second week of I suppose the Celtic spring, the second week of February. What exactly is happening on your farm this week, for instance? What's the farm look like and what's happening?
Yeah, so this week at the minute, actually repairing a polytunnel that got a bit of damage. So
fair enough. Yeah, it was a tough few weeks for people. Yeah.
Yeah, so getting stuck into that now this week, and so we're pretty much on a daily basis. You'll be feeding the hens, collecting eggs, just making sure they're all okay. And then this week we started sowing now. So in the next, I suppose February, March. By the time you get to the middle of March, the sowings really ramp up. You're getting in, you're starting your tomatoes, cucumbers, courgettes, and then by the time you get to April, May, then you've really done a huge amount of planting out, and you're into full swing for the season. So so it's pretty much by the end of March, everything that's in the tunnels has been replaced with their new crop, so for the spring, summer months.
Brilliant. I mean, it's a relatively new business if you took it on in 2021, and I mean, I have to commend the two of you. We released your video on YouTube this week, and I think it was the highest viewed video that we've ever had. So, and I think people are particularly interested in the sense that, it's two business partners taking on a farm and both making a living out of it. When you and Rob set out, did you have a set target, set goals? Did you have kind of a whole business plan around what you're doing, or was it just more go with the flow and you've added things as you've gone, or is it been a bit more kind of strategic in the layout of the land because there is two of you in the business?
Yeah, I suppose for us, we wanted to, I suppose, earn a salary that was at least the national average, just to for ourselves, to have a good standard of living. So I think any farmer really deserves to have a good quality of life too. We picked the enterprises that we did purely from a cash flow point of view, because if you buy a 16, 17-week-old punnet young hen in 4 weeks, they'll start to lay and then they'll give you cash flow. So that's the heart of every business, really, is cash flow. And that's the same too with veg production. When you sow a seed, within, depending on the crop, even 5-6 weeks time, for example, Mizuna, that'll be ready to harvest. And then your lettuces and that can be up on 7-8 weeks. So it's all, whereas that's, I suppose, beef is great and it's a great product to have in the farm shop. But when we buy cattle, you don't get the paycheck back, I suppose, on them for a year and a half. So it's quite, you have money tied up in it. So
yeah, fair enough. So talking about cattle, I mean, you've chosen Belted Galloways. Is there a reason for this? Do you find them more resilient in the kind of habitats you're in, or why did you choose them as a breed to work with?
Yeah, so kind of one of the things that we always wanted was that the livestock, the cattle would be out 365 days a year. That was for us to get. Yeah, that was really the I suppose one of the farmers in the area as well. Clive Bright has been doing holistic planned grazing, and for years he'd know little livestock in sheds as well. So that when you see somebody like that doing it as well, like it gives you the encouragement that it is possible. And then I'd spent a bit of time in Scotland, and I'd kind of seen it being done there. So it's just a lighter animal. Like I think you're in the northwest of Ireland where you have 1,300 mil of rain per annum. Having a 800 kg animal out in the middle of winter is never going to be an option. So like at the minute, then the bullocks are probably about 420 to 450 kg. So they're just, to be honest, they will start to mark around a little bit now, kind of if you didn't keep them moving. So yeah, and like you can send them into a field now, and there's rushes in some of the fields and that, and they'll go and start eating the rushes before they'll eat some of the grass. And so they definitely are a great animal for eating just a bit of everything.
And do you have to supplement their feeding at this time of the year?
No.
No.
So it's just,
okay.
yeah, so we'll just stockpile grass. So really what they're eating now, that ground hasn't been grazed since last September.
Okay.
So, yeah. So
I was also interested to see in your video, your kind of circular economy. You have your hens and all your, I suppose, scraps from your vegetable cuttings feed into your compost. So, that's all coming together for you now. Kind of, you were saying maybe this year would be the first year that you'll have your own compost because it's taken a while to get there and stuff. Do you see the benefit of that, of being kind of, that it's all kind of starting to feed into each other?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, it's just you have quality control. You know exactly what it is like. So, yeah, and you're just, I suppose, getting a handle on your costs as well. Like, so we buy in the wood shavings for the poultry, for the hens for the winter, and then you have the benefit. You've used that to bed the hens, but then you also know that you're going to get turned that into compost. So, it's providing multiple kind of I suppose sources of I suppose revenue for us. Like. So, and yeah, the big one is just the quality of the compost, because we've seen it now this year. Slug pressure hasn't been near as much as previous years. So I think some compost that maybe you buy in, they can be a bit immature, that kind of hasn't properly matured the compost and that. So yeah, we've planted out beds before, and you've come back 2 or 3 days later and slugs might have eaten 20-30% of the seedlings. So yeah, so no, definitely produce. We also know the local seaweed bats for you. They give us their seaweed, which has been absolutely brilliant now. So you're getting that in the mix then as well. So I think seaweed is 40 different minerals in it, just in kind of small quantities. So it's just that slow release, and it's it's stable, and then it just becomes slowly then plant available. So.
And the other thing that I think is really interesting and that was commented in your video is that because you've done a no dig system, you only have to do about half a day weeding in a whole year on your kind of vegetable patches. Would you just explain that to anyone that doesn't understand the no dig system and how that's benefited your farming system and your time?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Yeah, when we started with and then putting down the cardboard. So the cardboard essentially created a barrier from any of that kind of the weed, them grasses and that coming up and that. So we were essentially at the start, we weren't growing in, say, your heavy soil or anything. We were just growing within the layer of compost then on top of that. So that allowed us then at the start then you didn't have any weed pressure, because you weren't weeds coming through as you were disturbing the soil or that. So yeah, that's a big. I think then that goes back to our compost as well. Like we're very particular with, like, if anything has gone to seed, it doesn't go into the compost pile, obviously, because it's just you've dealt with the kind of any of the weed pressure at the source. So,
no, it's really interesting. And I mean, you've gone a step further, and you now have a farm shop. Can you tell us the origins of it and how it works for you guys within your kind of business?
Yeah, so when we started, I suppose it was tricky, and just because you kind of, we done the crop plan at the start and kind of made the projected sales and that, but then we would harvest and then all of a sudden just, I suppose, stuff would go off or that, because you might have over harvested even so. And well, within I think after like a month and a half, 2 months, we had a little kind of hut out at the kind of road, but there was no fridge or anything in it. So we're like, okay, geez, we can't continue going on with this, because this is just throwing money away. So so there was a bit of a shade. Yeah, it was very rough and ready at the start. There was just an open shade, there was no door or anything on it, and stuck a fridge and that in there. So it just gave us the flexibility that, like, you kind of, I suppose, you didn't have to be as particular when you went harvesting. Then, like, I suppose when it came to leaves and that, if you harvested an extra kg or that, you could just bag it up and it could be ready to go into the fridge in the farm shop, and there was more opportunity then for customers to come and buy. So yeah, it's been a huge one. Jesus, really has. Like, I suppose we weren't maybe sure whether it would work, but because it is an honesty shop, say, as such, so it's self-service, and yeah, we weren't sure whether that would work, but yeah, it's really come into its own.
Are the people of Strandhill honest? This is the question.
That's it. Yeah, that's odd. Oh, they're brilliant. Jeez, they really, really are. Like, so yeah,
great.
That's it. So the people.
And what percentage of your business, of your sales, is your farm shop?
I would say probably the 50-60% mark. Yeah, be thereabouts. Yeah, maybe even closer to 60. Yeah. Yeah. So,
and the rest is local restaurants or supermarkets, or?
Yeah, so we're mainly the farm shop, and then we sell kind of salad, spinach, kale, and other kind of maybe bits of rocket and that into two local centres and a super value. And then we have just a few restaurants, cafes then that we do as well. But it'd be mainly the farm shop and the retail. So yeah.
It is quite good that you've set up a self-service, because it means while you have the opportunity to meet your customer face to face, you're not restricted to actually stand in a shop and use up manpower standing in a shop the whole time. How important is it to you to interact with your customer and to bring them to your farm, do you think?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, that's something we probably do need to spend a little bit more time in the farm shop, because it's easy to go out and draw up your jobs list for the day and just get stuck into them. But I suppose when we're in and out to the farm shop too, stocking up as well. Like, people love to see you as well and just have a chat, and you get very, very familiar with all the faces, and they'll be asking you, geez, what's going on the farm this week, and how we, or even say after a bit of a storm, they'll be wondering, was everything okay? And so no, it's brilliant. Like, so yeah, and like, not this year we didn't do any farm tour, but previous years we would always try to do an open day during the summer. So that's when you really get a great opportunity then to get people on the farm and get them out and about down the field.
And I suppose it's a rarity that to meet the farmer these days, unless you're going to farmers markets and stuff. Do you know, like, people don't get that opportunity to meet the farmer as much anymore. So what do you feel have been the challenges along the way building up the farm and the business?
Let me see. I suppose, just balancing and everything. Like, balancing work and then time away from work. Fatigue is at the start. Like, definitely you're having to you're a farmer, you're an electrician, you're a carpenter. All of a sudden then you're you're
a business person.
Then you're running a farm shop. So and then for the first 2 years we done markets as well. So that was it's unfortunately just up here, markets were at the weekends. So we done it for 1 year, and then kind of just like, that it wasn't for us. That giving up your Saturdays and Sundays, there had to be a bit of downtime.
Do you find you've got a good work-life balance now, or?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, in 2024 there now was the first year that we really got a handle on our work hours. So we each done a 5-day week. I would do Monday to Friday, Rob would do Tuesday to Saturday. And then we had another full-time worker then coming in, and he was doing 5 days a week as well, or 4 days a week. So so I think last year we averaged, was it 42 to 45 hours a week?
Yeah,
so Yeah, no, big. I was huge for energy levels. Definitely, that you by the time you got to June, July, you didn't feel like you were out on your feet.
Burnt out,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was going to actually ask that, do you guys rely on volunteers or woofers or any workaways or any of that? Or is it, do you just kind of keep it streamlined to yourself?
Yeah, so we have last year we had one full-time employee and then one part-time.
Mhm.
We put up 2 more tunnels last year, so we made the decision to take somebody on for 3 days a week. So that would free us up to build the tunnels and all that.
Mhm.
So this year the plan will be to have myself, Rob, and another then full-time employee doing 40 hours a week, and then still playing around with a few other ideas. Maybe if we do a few more farm tours, there might be the possibility that we take on somebody else then maybe 2 days a week or 3 days a week or something like that.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
no, we've always found that I suppose, yeah, when you just have paid employees, that I suppose it's just very clear that someone's getting a fair wage, and then there's the responsibility on them to do a good day's work then as well. Like so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, getting back to the nature on the farm, can you tell us about maybe the habitats and what you've done to enhance any of the habitats or on your farm, or what you've done for kind of any species on your farm and stuff like that?
Yeah, so in year one, we planted a native hedge, and that was 140, 150 meters. So that was a mixture of hawthorn, blackthorn, spindle, a couple of mature trees then as well. So that's actually really, now you'll see it kind of, think last year really kind of actually kind of put on a wee bit of growth and started to kind of really mature a bit. So that's looking really nice. And then up around the market garden, we put in a kind of a shelter belt. So that's a mixture of willow, and then there is a row of Scots pine and alder as well. And that's
Mhm.
actually, now that's actually, I suppose, one of the benefits of that now that we're seeing is the amount of birds that go into that then during the summer months. And they're kind of coming in and out of it. Then they'll kind of go from that shelter belt out into kind of around the veg beds, and they'll be eating slugs and going in and scratching on that. So it's actually, I think that's been one of the huge help, I suppose, with dealing with slow pressure, is inviting and kind of attracting more birds and
Mhm.
that into the market garden area.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think it's important? Do you think like the story of biodiversity? Do you think it's important in your whole story at your farm to your customers? Do you think like that has added to your business?
Yeah, but definitely. Yeah, people are very conscious of what they eat, and then they want to know how their food is produced, so that the food that they're buying is good quality, it actually has proper nutrition in it, but
Mhm.
then how it's being produced, that the practices behind it are actually they're not doing any damage, I suppose, to the environment or any, yeah, that. So yeah, definitely, it's one of the big deciding factors, I'd say, when somebody makes a decision to purchase food.
Mhm. Brilliant.
Yeah.
We might just go to some of the questions that have been put forward to you. So John Carney has asked, how do you deal with the glut of veg and eggs? I suppose guessing this is when we were talking about that, maybe stuff starts turning up in April, May altogether. You have a farm shop, so that's probably has answered that, perhaps.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I suppose yes. Or I suppose, yeah, as the years gone on, now we've just um, have kind of figured out maybe, yeah, exactly with the hens and that you just know when we're kind of getting the new flock in, and that, so uh, they're up at kind of nearly full lay when demand is at its most during the summer
Mhm.
months. So then, as demand might drop off a little bit during the winter months, sometimes the hens, their lay rate might drop off a wee bit as well. So it kind of ties in together.
And you have layers. Do you have any kind of chicken meat, like
No, something, yeah, something we always get asked, but making broilers, making meat, chicken work financially is very hard in Ireland, especially
Mm.
just the price of feed is, so it's, yeah, it's kind of one that we've considered a few times, but just don't think we have the time for it.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So Dan McCarthy has asked, do you use any seaweed? You were saying you get it from Voye down the road in Strandhill, so that's
Yeah.
useful. Claire
Yeah.
Lyons has asked, have you done mulching with wool? I've heard this has been done, but no experience of it firsthand. You don't
Uh,
you don't
no,
really
this
have wool on your
no,
farm,
I've
really.
seen just maybe people mulching. hedge different sections of hedge in that, and shelter beds with it. But no, we haven't done it. No.
Do you use any vermicompost?
No, not. Yeah, something that we have looked at as well, and maybe I suppose this, definitely probably should be looking into it a bit more, but at the minute we're not. Yeah.
So you mentioned at one stage that you don't put the weeds that have gone to seed into your compost. What do you do with them instead? Claire Lyons has asked.
The weeds ought to just get normally there's different grass areas out around the market garden, so any weeds just get kind of chucked out onto the grass, and then they get picked up with the lawnmower. So that kind of gets rid of them.
So John McElroy was asking, I currently designing my own eggmobile with rollaway nest box. I watched a video of the Knocknarea eggmobile on Facebook, and I couldn't find any more. I think you had a SCAR rollaway nest box, but yeah. I think I saw Rob was demonstrating a means of adjusting the fall with the rollaway chute. Am I imagining this, or did you design the chute yourselves, or is this an off-the-shelf solution?
Yeah, it was a second-hand one that we bought, and then we kind of retrofitted it to suit our eggmobile. So yeah, it was kind of making it work on our eggmobile. So yeah, we added to it. So it was our own modifications.
And Eileen Condon has asked, do you sell beef in your farm shop?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we sell burgers, mince, and steaks. So yeah, we used to do beef boxes, but we found, I suppose we wanted everyone to get a little bit, rather than selling a 20 kg beef box where you might only have 12 or 13 customers getting a bit. So yeah, we sell burgers, mince, and then steaks. So ribeye, fillet, strip loin, and sirloin steaks.
And she's also asked, what's your best sellers in your farm shop?
Eggs. Yeah, everyone loves good eggs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to get them, isn't it? And it's kind of that thing. Someone was saying to me, if you sell eggs in your farm shop, it means people will come back regularly. You know, they might not only come once for your cabbage, but they'll come back every 2 to 3 days for your eggs, and therefore buy your cabbage every time. Do you know what I mean? Not saying you sell cabbage, but you know, it's a handy one to have in the thing. So Katie wants to know, do you take workaways or internships on OGI or anything else?
Not at the minute. So yeah, maybe potentially, yeah, we'd actually had chatted to the OGI this year. We were considering taking one, but yeah, it won't happen for 2025, maybe in 2026.
And Alan Tracy's asked, have you seen an improvement in rushes since farming this way? What are your methods for controlling them organically? It sounds like the cows are eating them, is it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, cattle tend the Galloways will go in this time of the year, and they'll clip the tops off them. So yeah, there has you do have to at times now. Even this year now was the first year we went in and with the rotary mower, and because we found some areas with the rushes were denser, and that the hens would lay outside in the rushes because they could get a bit of a dark area. So just had to take the step to go in and knock the rushes. And yeah, didn't want to be going collecting eggs off the ground outside.
Yeah, fair enough. And Jackie Queeley's asked, is your location close to a popular tourist spot? It is, but is that a good help for your sales, or is it mostly local people buying?
Yeah, no, I would say during the summer definitely it does help. You kind of, yeah, we've got we put up signage down on the Strandhill Road, and then on this Strandhill Road from Sligo town, and then went up kind of say one of the other roundabouts that would be on the Wild Atlantic Way. We put up a bit of signage there, so that definitely helps. It can makes people aware of that there is a farm shop, and they'll might go and check this out. But yeah, so that's a good mix.
Kind of people in caravan sites or Airbnbers or self catering. Conor Macaulay said, Sean, can you talk briefly about your self-service tablet system that you set up for payments in the farm shop? Was it good investment, and do the majority pay by card or cash?
So yeah, the software is Square, and you buy what they call the Square stand, and then there is you can buy then a second-hand iPad after, and the iPad sits into it, so it's like a little touchscreen then payment system, and yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, I suppose since COVID, cash has really kind of started to die out a bit. So yeah, the majority of our payments now would be in card, and it's fun for us too. It makes it makes it a lot easier too, because the banks don't really like handling too much cash at the minute either. So you're going to get charged for it.
Yeah, fair enough. John McElroy says, how badly were your polytunnels damaged by storm Owen? And if you're starting again in a new, would you do anything differently to avoid storm damage in the future?
Yeah, we had a bit of damage all right now to one. We lost the plastic came off it, and we bit of kind of small bit of kind of bent steel on another couple. Would you do? Yeah, it's tricky. Like what we're going to do actually with that tunnel now that got damaged, we had started along the north side. We had created like a bank with kind of clay in that, and so that was about we'd only enough material to kind of make it about 1.5 meters wide and about 1.5 meters high. So we'll really probably even double the height of that, and bring it around too, that it comes around and kind of protects the west side of the tunnels as well. So
so kind of set it in around it.
Yeah, so just when the wind comes, that the wind gets thrown up over it, and then we'll probably up around that the north side of them tunnels as well. We'll really plant it out a lot more as well, just to start breaking up the wind of it.
Yeah. And have you ever considered caterpillar tunnels at which you could take down the sheeting before a storm rolls in, or is this a silly idea because it's damaging the crops?
Yeah, just caterpillar tunnels, I don't think they're designed or for quite exposed locations. I think ideally maybe in a wall garden is where they'll come into their own, or if you had very mature forestry or protection in around you. But you kind of in where we are anyway, it's quite an exposed, elevated place, and you need concrete.
Okay, fair enough. And just going back to the compost, Claire Lyons wants to know, do you make wood chip or leaf mold or sheep manure or hay for compost? How do you make your compost, basically?
Yes, the compost is made up of the wood shavings and the poultry dung. So as the wood shavings is kind of put under the hens during the winter in one of the polytunnels, that gets mixed anyway there. So then when we clean out the polytunnel in the spring, and that all that gets piled up and covered, and then as then the kind of, I suppose, the market garden starts producing waste greens, we just make a mix nearly every week, or kind of we've created actually, I suppose, different bays using old cattle slats, and put them on their edges. So that way then you go in and you take, we were normally doing about 3 front loader scoops of the wood shavings and dung to about 1 scoop then of the waste greens, and then you'd put it in 1 scoop then of seaweed as well. So it's kind of doing a mix and then taking it out, mixing it again, seeing if it needs a little bit more of something else, and then maybe a little bit more greens or a little bit more carbon, and then just kind of keep kind of feeling it out as you go.
Because I think this is in relation to that. Lisa Gifford's asked, how far down do you reckon is the cardboard?
The cardboard was put on this on day one. The cardboard was put on ground on the grass, really.
Sorry, but it's not involved in the actual composting situation.
No, cardboard was just put down on day one. So
that was for the no dig
level, and then
John McElroy has asked, do you use second-hand cardboard for the no dig garden, or is it rolls of new cardboard?
We used rolls of new cardboard, just speed. Yeah, I think rolls of new cardboard, you can get like 80 meters in a roll, and when you want to get your market garden laid out quickly, definitely I would spend money on the new cardboard. Yeah.
Interesting, very good. So just coming back to, do you think there's a kind of real educational side of what you do, like Sean, like educating customers and neighbours and other farming peers?
Yeah, oh no, definitely in the farm shop, like people, because they get to meet the farmer, but you kind of have to remember, some people might live in a town or that, or have, I suppose, even now in Strandhill, you have people that have moved down from kind of Dublin over the last couple of years, and they're living in kind of yeah, living in the countryside is kind of new for them. Like, so for their ability to come into the yard and park up, and then they can just look straight into the polytunnel and they can see crops growing. Like, it's a very new experience for them, and they've got loads of questions. So they're
Mm.
yeah. So no, it's great. Yeah, they always kind of want to know things and kind of see what's going on, and yeah, they want interest to learn. Yeah.
And where would you start advising another farmer who's interested in setting up a farm to farm shop situation, like that kind of direct sales type situation? What would kind of three main things would you tell them to consider?
Location would be the big one. Have you got access? Like, yeah, you don't want to be too far off the beaten track either. Like, so that would be, yeah, location would be, I suppose, number one. Your parking, yeah, you have to have parking. It's kind of something that we didn't think of too much at the start here. But yeah, because if 4 or 5 people come at the one time, there needs to be enough parking for 4 or 5 vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is the other one then? I suppose yeah, I suppose it has to be safe. That's the thing as well. Like, yeah, you can't have loads of hazards around the place. So definitely, yeah. So because a lot of like, we have a lot of families that come out and kind of shop as well with us, and actually the parents will always say it's great that the kids can get out of the car and they're not worried, like in town or something like that, where loads of kind of cars around the place, where the kids can come out and they kind of go for a wee bit of a run around the front of the yard and then kind of into the farm shop, and they can go and help them pack their veg. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of kids then love kind of touching the self-payment screen as well and paying, and off they go. They're delighted
Yeah,
with
yeah.
themselves. Yeah,
Very grown up. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. And is there anywhere in particular you guys went for advice and support when you were setting up?
Yeah, so we've done I suppose with the, well, I think it's 3LM. It'd be the organization in the UK. So that was the holistic holistic land management. So kind of they do different kind of I suppose modules that we've done a few of them. And then I suppose the other one was, I done a wee bit of volunteering down in Moy Hill down in Clare many years ago. So yeah, since then myself and Rob have got very friendly with we're good friends with Fergal and Sally and that. So, and even then other growers, then we met Joe and Aoife in Glasry there in Mayo as well. So
Mm.
once you kind of meet these people, like, everyone is very very good with their time and sharing what they've learned and what works and what doesn't, and you always end up kind of bouncing ideas off each other. And because we're all pretty, like, climate wise, we're all farming in very similar climate, so you kind of
Mm.
really get an idea then of maybe sowing dates, and yeah, just really kind of what works and even what people want. That's the big one as well. Yeah.
Do you feel there's kind of like there's such a big market there? Like with these other farmers, you're not competing with them at all because it's so localized, but it's also. Do you feel that there's quite nearly an unlimited market for what you're producing, or what do you feel?
Yeah, I think even just more and more people are becoming aware of the difference in, like, just good food and bad food, really. So, like, sometimes, like, as I say, sometimes a carrot might look like a carrot, but it might have been produced in a way where there's absolutely zero nutrition in it.
Mm.
But then, so people, like, a lot of times with us, people say, geez, I remember that's what a carrot used to taste like when I was young, or that's what an egg used to taste like, or that. And they'll even say, like, the yolk is so this firm when they kind of
Mm-hmm.
crack open the egg. So they've all these, or even, geez, people love potatoes. So, like, we actually buy in potatoes off Eamon McDonough down in Galway, in Mayo, in Kilmaine, and grows great potatoes. So people always comment on how and it reminds them of the potatoes their family used to grow, or that when they were young. So
Yeah, very
yeah,
good.
yes.
So just going back to a few more questions. Niall Sullivan said, I'm in a very exposed site myself. Could you talk a little about the construction of polytunnel materials that you used? Or was there anything special, I suppose, considering that you're exposed?
So we used, I suppose, yeah, the holes we don't. The holes were 400 mil by 400 mil, and then 600 mil deep, and then this. I suppose, yeah, it's actually all the steel is pretty much mushroom steel from mushroom tunnels. So it'd be stronger than, I suppose, your typical maybe veg production tunnels that you would buy. And then wood, yeah, a lot of it then was 4x4, and just what did we do then? I suppose, yeah, between each hoop we went to 1.8 meters to 2 meters. So yeah, the wider you go structurally, I suppose, then you start to weaken the tunnel. So I definitely probably, yeah, don't go any wider than 2 meters between hoops or that. Yeah.
And then John McElroy is kind of on a polytunnel question. So also asked, do you use drip irrigation, sprinklers, hoses, watering cans, or a mixture?
So yeah, it'd be drip irrigation and overhead irrigation. So depending on the time of the year, yeah. And then yeah, when you plant out a bed too, you'd initially, depending on how dry the bed was or how wet the bed was, you might just give it a wee bit of a watering with the hand lance first, or after you've planted it out, I should say. Yeah.
And Claire Lance has asked, do you put compost on top of the cardboard for the no dig? And how long does it take for the bed to be ready to plant in?
Yeah, you can plant into it straight away, providing that your compost that you have is mature compost. If it's still hot, it's still not. It's still breaking down, so it's not ready to use it. But yeah, once your compost is matured, you can plant away then.
And what tools do you use to create the planting holes for seedlings and transplants?
Just your probably we would kind of just do, we have a wee tilter, so that's a handheld tilter. So that just kind of provides a wee bit of tillage just on the surface. So then you pretty much you mark the bed with a rake, and then you put down your wee plugs and just then plant it out by hand. So we just kind of make a little bit of a hole with kind of one hand and then put it in, plant out the plug then with the other hand. So.
And where do you source seeds from for the market garden?
So it'd be Seeds Ireland would be the big one of the big ones that we buy stuff off, and then there's a couple of German companies as well, Bergenheimer, I think, are that. So yeah, so a mixture of kind of Irish companies and then European companies as well. Yeah.
And then Eileen Condon has asked, how often do you have a physical presence in your shop versus the honor system?
Let me see, probably on Fridays and Saturdays, or Saturdays mainly. You might have somebody floating around the yard a little bit, and yeah, they might be popping in and out to the shop. Or even probably this year now, it's something, yeah, we might, because you know from the square system when the peak times, I suppose, of footfall. So that would be something now. Maybe if we did take on another person this year for 2 or 3 days a week, it might be one of their days might be Saturday, so that they might be the farm shop from, I don't know, 10 to 2 or something, 10 to 3.
Yeah. Just to answer the questions that are needed.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Do you ever think, Sean, just coming to the end of our Q&A here, unless anyone has any other questions, do you ever think about the legacy of what you're leaving behind? And does this, because I know both you and Rob have families, and does it kind of influence the way you're farming now, thinking about the future and what's being left behind?
Yeah, oh no, definitely. I suppose for me, I suppose one of the big things was that if I was if I was going to have kids, that I'd be able to feed them, I suppose, and produce the food for them. So that was one of the big things. Then it's just, I suppose, I had such happy memories myself of growing up on a farm. So also to be able to give that to them as well is a big thing. That even now on Saturdays or that'll come out, and the 2 girls will be in one of the wee trolleys going collecting eggs, and they're absolutely delighted with it. So you kind of forget just something so small for a young child is huge. Whereas you kind of it really kind of having kids kind of makes you like brings that childness back out of you again.
the joy of it all.
Yeah.
And just let me see, one more question here is John McElroy. Have you ever considered manning the shop and doing coffee or cook food? It's a whole other ball game, I suppose.
Yeah, oh no, sure, you always have these ideas floating around your head that yeah, because people say that, like, geez, they might on a nice summer's day they'd be kind of pull in, and they're actually, even I don't know so many times, like we kind of had tables, we picnic tables out at one point. People would sit down, and all of a sudden they'd be there having a chat an hour later, and they'd say, geez, if only we had a coffee now, would be great. So
Yeah.
there's no end to the amount of things you can be doing.
Well, this is a she can't be everything to everyone.
Pick your
Lisa
battles.
Gifford has asked, how do you handle post-harvest processing of the different produce?
Yeah, so everything kind of goes into kind of a bins. So normally kind of in the bins, there's then like there's enough to kind of, you can put kind of nearly 7-8 kg of leaves or in them. So depending, I suppose depending on the weather, if it was kind of, normally I suppose this time of year now is slightly different, that we harvest on a Monday, and you'd only be harvesting that the quantity that you'd be able to pack on Monday as well, and it would go to retail on Monday. Whereas then during the summer, then depending on the weather, you might have to harvest one day, and then everything would go into the chiller that day, and then would all get pulled out the following morning and get packed and off to retail. Then, so
brilliant, interesting. Sean, you've been really generous for sharing your journey today. Thank you so much, and it's great to see all the conversation and chat on the chat preview, and people telling their own different kind of insights and stuff. So thanks for that. But I really appreciate you joining us today, and I know that if your video is really impressive, so if anyone hasn't seen Sean and Rob's video on YouTube, do check it out. It's on the Farming for Nature YouTube channel. Also, hopefully Sean and Rob will be doing a Farming for Nature walk with us later in the season. So we'll open them up for a farm tour yet. So keep an eye on our newsletters and our social media platforms if you want to join us on that. Hopefully each of our Farming for Nature ambassadors from 2024 will be able to open up their farms. We'll see how it goes. So thank you so much for joining us. Please join us again for our next Q&A, which will be on the 18th of March, and will be with Colm Gilligan. Like I say, if you missed any of tonight's session, or you know of someone who would like to see it, it will be up on our YouTube channel in the next 24 hours. Meanwhile, thank you, Sean. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to everyone for joining us and being really interactive. It's been a great session. We'll see you again soon. Thanks, Sean.
Brilliant. Thanks, Bridget.